Hello, everybody. Hey, I want to start with this because I know some people will be listening to the recording. I don't know how long this will live on, but this is happening June 1st. And we created together a community. And the community was designed to take us through a period of time, a season of chaos, an uncharacteristic period in our lives where the world was completely shaken and nobody really knew where we would land, but we knew that life had changed, maybe forever in some form, but we also believe that we're going to get back to ourselves and get back to some kind of normal, and even if it's a little different, in some ways the world will be better for it. So when we initiated this program, 55 days would land us at June 1st. June 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, just on the heels of the president making a speech, because now we're involved in riots and protests all over the country. So I'm sharing this because before we started recording this, we were having a conversation. And a part of what I said is some people that I know are very affected and some people are not affected. But even within this group, there are people who are in the midst right now of the chaos, and then there are people who are removed from it. So what we don't want to do is get swallowed up by it. And it's hard, and it's harder for some people than for others. But the worst thing we could do is allow ourselves to get swallowed up, because then we lose control. So the whole idea was we are going to be the best that we can be. And I'm curious, as we went through this 55-day process, how many of you can raise your hand and say you're better in some form, in some way, shape, or form? Maybe you have better energy. Maybe you're off your medications. Maybe you don't have the disease you thought you were going to have forever. Maybe you lost 10 pounds. Maybe you lost 20 pounds. Maybe you look better in your clothing. Maybe you started to recognize the power that you have. Maybe you started to eat better. But how many of you can hold up your hand and say, I am better? In some form, I am better. And what I love is I'm seeing absolutely positively, yes, 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 I am better. And that's fantastic, because that's why we started this. So I want you to realize it is vitally important that we turn our attention toward our own power no matter what. We talk about mindset not because it's fun, because it's vitally important to every single thing in our lives. So lots of people think this is going to be an exercise program, and it is. And they understand that in order for an exercise program to truly be effective to bring about transformation, it has to incorporate nutrition, and it does. But man, it is so much more. Because of the personalities and the dedication and the commitment and the wisdom and the knowledge of the coaches and the members alike, because of the sense of community that emerged. Listen, some of you never in a million years thought you'd ever have interest in meditation. And now you're massive Ariel Griglin fans. Some of you never even knew what a kitchen was. And now you're cooking meals. And by the way, healthy meals, metabolic meals. So I don't want you to forget the power just because we finished with this program. We went through 55 days, and the 55 days was strategic. I took the structure, the skeleton upon which some of my most effective programs are built, and I expanded it and modified it so that it would extend through this 55 days. Again, when I started it, believing it was enough time that we would come back to normal. And you guys have made it through, and what I love is the conversations have moved with the program. You learned a new language, a new lexicon, so we can now speak about protein days and circadian nutrition and intermittent eating and clusters and functional six. And when I say it's really a community, man, it is absolutely a community. So last week, I spoke about the concept of balance, and I related to many different elements of our lives, including physical balance. And this week, I want to talk about something that sounds like the same thing, but it's not. This week, I want to talk about being in center. Isn't it the same? Nope. Can you be both? Yes. But can you be one and not the other? Yeah. Well, I know what I'm about to say is true because I have the experience. It is really difficult to walk in high heels. Yes, I know it to be true. Women, can I get an amen? I know it because there used to be a club, and I'm talking about a lot of years ago, a nightclub called Club Boca in Boca Raton, and it was a hot place to go out and hook up. And I went to Club Boca, and I was wearing sneakers, and they said, "Sorry, I have to have shoes." And I said to the bouncer, "If I get any kind of shoes, do you promise you'll let me in?" And he said, "Yes." And I literally stood in the parking lot and asked, "Do you have an extra pair of shoes?" And sure enough, this woman said, "Yes, but they're pumps." I said, "Pumps? All right." So I wore no pictures. We didn't have cell phones back then. We could take pictures of everything. But I was like, how do you possibly walk in these things? I was scared to death. So it's hard to wear those things, right? But man, they look good. They look good. They make your legs look good. So you figure out how you can maintain your balance, and over time, your body develops a new kinesthetic awareness. You guys remember this from last week. Holly gave you ways to mess around with your kinesthetic awareness. Holden gave you ways to mess around with your kinesthetic awareness, but sooner or later your body gets it. But if you're thrown off of balance, then your body has to, in a sense, maladapt. It adapts to the imbalance, so you are no longer centered. Does that make sense? I have a couple of pictures here, so you see that there's an older man who's walking with a walker, and he's kind of bent over. So he's not centered, but when he walks with the walker, he assumes a position where he can maintain balance. But wouldn't it be better if we got him centered so he didn't need the walker? Wouldn't it be better if we got the woman who wears the heels to not wear the heels all the time so she could readjust her posture? Now, her husband or boyfriend might say, no, I love those heels, but let's look at her 15 years down the road. She's going to be at the chiropractor quite a bit if she doesn't get back in the center. And there's the guy with the kid on his shoulders, and of course, he's not centered because his body's adjusting to the load. But as soon as he removes that child, he can come back into center. So we can be balanced but not centered. Does that make sense? So when we talk about being balanced, we're talking about an even distribution of weight. And last week I talked about an infant learning to walk. And I said, biomechanically, it doesn't even make sense that this human body should be able to stand upright, let alone propel itself forward without tipping over. But we do. We do. And we find a way to center so we can stay upright and steady. Balance is a condition in which different elements are equal or they're in their correct proportions. So that's balance. But what is centered? If they're not the same, then what actually are we talking about? Well, when the body is faced with any imposed imbalance, I gave you some examples, it adapts. And this is a part of the miraculous property of the human machine. It can adapt and it can change and it can maladapt. And lots of people have back pain or hip issues or knee problems because they spend a lot of years asking their body unintentionally to maladapt. They spend hours and hours and hours with their head tilted forward looking at their computer and their phone, and they develop forward head, or what is now referred to by chiropractors as text neck, an excessive curve in the cervical spine. Because form follows function. The body adapts to what you're asking. So it will move away from being centered if you're asking it to. The beauty is we can fix maladaptation. We can get the body balanced and centered. But I'm not talking about the body today. I'm talking about more than the body. In the world today, June 1st, 2020, it's very easy to get off center. Because if you turn on your television, you turn on the radio today, you're going to hear what's going on, and a lot of it is not pretty. And if you get caught up in it, it pulls you away from what? Maybe away from your personal drama, or maybe away from the people you love, or maybe away from your family. Does it actually pull you away? Well, not physically, but emotionally it does. Mindset it does. So even though you may appear to be balanced because you're in your house with your family, you're off center. Now, how could we know if we're off center? Unless, of course, we identify our center. When you guys do the side front lateral raise, sitting on the stability ball or standing on one leg, you notice that you feel it in your core. You feel it in your abs. You think of it as a shoulder exercise. When you do it, you go, oh man, I really feel that in the space between my stomach and my back. And the reason is because of the weight distribution, you are changing your center of gravity. So this is the genius of the body. When you change your center of gravity, the muscular contractions adjust to keep you upright. But when your center of gravity is not in your center, that's when we maladapt. Stay with me, you'll understand. If you can operate from center, and I'm going to explain further what that means, you then have a fluid power to be in harmony. With what? With all the forces that impact you. Like what? Well, like gravity. If you have forward head, you're not in harmony with gravity. Because relative to your body and your spine and your low back, your head becomes a bowling ball if it's too far out in front of your body. It has weight to it, and gravity pushes it down and does harm. So when you are centered, you're in harmony with gravity. And if you're walking, it's a windy day, but you're balanced and centered, then the wind doesn't really push you one way or the other. You're in harmony with it. You might even enjoy the way the wind feels. So this concept of being centered can apply to physical center, emotional center, and spiritual center. When you move from center, rather than from one side or the other side, or too far front or too far back, your line of pull cuts through resistance. Picture the front of a rowboat, a canoe, a kayak, as it cuts through the water. Because the forces are in harmony with the boat. You're rowing. So the water, which might be resistant, is in a sense allowing you to cut right through. Now, if you rowed too hard on one side, you wouldn't be cutting through like that. The forces would be unequal. So I want to share with you, I call it a trick right now, but it's more than that. It's a practice. It's a technique. And I'll also tell you in advance, you will not appreciate the power of it tonight. You will not. But you will think back to this and say, I remember when Phil told me this was going to be really powerful. And I have to tell you, there are many things that I've learned to teach that seemed hard to teach. And now you hear that I've developed a language, the EEM, the PFC, the RAS. You understand that. This is one of those things. It's hard to teach. Kind of like lymphatic twists and diaphragmatic breathing. They seem so abstract until you experience the benefits of them. So I want you to at least accept that you will not fully understand what I'm talking about right now when I talk about being in center. But you have heard the term. You've heard it used in yoga. You've heard it used in Eastern practices. You've heard it used in martial arts. So there's got to be something to this idea of being centered, right? You probably even heard of it in psychology. So in order to have a sense of being centered, you need some polarities. You can't be in the center unless there's something to be in the center of. And in order to have polarities, we have to have some sorts of elements or forces. So one of those elements or forces is light. If you have meditated with Ariel, then at some level, you learned to create the sensation of light. Now, if you haven't meditated, that won't make any sense. You go, how can I feel light unless it's hot? Well, because when you meditate, you literally create something. And you can see with your eyes closed, with your inner eye, light, and you can feel it move through you. So in order to find center, you have to befriend the sensation of light. You also have to befriend the sensation of breath. Let me ask you guys, and just give me a yes or no. Do you have the diaphragmatic breathing down? Now, we started that early in the program. It's really valuable. It's really important. But here's what I know. Having conducted workshops now for thousands of people on this topic, diaphragmatic breathing, some of them get it instantly. In most cases, and not all, in most cases, the more athletic somebody is, the more, the less time it takes for them to get the hang of it. When we're dealing with somebody who spends a lot of time sitting in an office, sitting at a desk, it's harder for them. But then there's a moment, and I don't know how the moment happens, but there's a moment where they go, oh, I got it, yep, and then from that point on, they can do it. So I love the answers. The answers are yes. So at first, it's difficult, and then you get it. So when I ask you to breathe into center, it's kind of like diaphragmatic breathing, but a little different. We need to also understand that we have control over the force of emotion. In every given moment? Of course not. But we can adapt. Something happens and makes us sad. Can we instantly get happy? No, but we probably shouldn't be happy in that moment. We should be sad and learn from it and experience it. But when we understand that we can react, respond, and modify emotion, we can become more centered. And I just mentioned that we can see with our eyes closed. Some people are more visual, some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic. So visual people, when they think, they're thinking in pictures, they're thinking in movies, they're thinking in video. But even those people who aren't visual usually have imagery when they dream. So even if you're not a visual person, you have a reference for seeing with your eyes closed. So the practice that will teach you to become centered relies upon your ability to see imagery, to move light and feel the sensation of it, to feel feelings, and to manipulate breath. I am not a martial artist. When I was a kid, there was a place called Jerome Mackey's Karate School, and I always thought I wanted to go there. And I went for a free lesson. It's kind of a sales pitch. So I sat there with my mom, and they said, do kids beat you up at school? And I said, no. And they go, well, what about the bully? I said, no. And they go, well, wouldn't it be good to stop the kids from beating you up? And I said, the kids don't really beat me up. So it was the worst sales job I ever experienced in my life. Then I went in for the free class, and they threw me to the ground a few times. They go, now do you want to join? And I thought, no, this sucks. So I would watch Bruce Lee movies, and I thought that was really cool, but somehow I didn't associate what they were going to teach me at the school with what Bruce Lee was doing. However, I have met many people in my life, including Dr. Love, who many of you have met or certainly experienced, and a good friend of mine who is a master of the martial arts and Eastern philosophies, and they've taught me. So there are principles that I have learned that I've managed to bring in to my own repertoire, to my own set of tools that I have, even though I'm certainly not a martial artist. So in the discipline of Aikido, the idea is you work to win the battle by rendering the other person unable to hurt you. But you do it in a way that you do not hurt him. So Aikido is a martial art where the practitioner learns to protect himself without causing harm to the attacker. And the entirety of Aikido, the art of it, asks you to move from center. So I want you to just for a moment envision somebody attacking someone else, and that someone else takes a little bit of a step and they just pull back from their center and the other person goes flying into the wall. And now I want you to picture that again. They're standing there and somebody's coming at them, trying to tackle them, and they turn and they just step away enough and they take their hand and they just give a little push to the other guy. And now he goes flying into the wall a little bit harder. So as our center of gravity moves, so too does the body. The trick, unlike maladaptation, is to move your center of gravity first and let your body follow. That's the reverse of maladapting. Maladapting, your body moves into a position, your center of gravity changes, and your body kind of figures out how to get there. But this is, we move our center, and then naturally, our body follows. So the first thing that you want to do if you want to learn to be centered is you have to imagine breath. Now, the nice thing about imagining breath is it's experiential. You're actually breathing as you're imagining it. So if you've done diaphragmatic breathing and mastered it, then you know the experience of bringing air into you and delivering it to the diaphragm. Because most American adults are chest breathers, it takes a little getting used to, but when you get used to it, it's not hard to imagine because you're doing it. So if you can breathe into the diaphragm, I want you to imagine that you can bring that breath anywhere. Now, physically, does the diaphragm expand? Do the lungs expand? Yes. But now we're talking about imagination. So if you wanted to imagine it, you could literally imagine breathing into your feet. Will the breath go there? Well, not physically. But we're not only dealing with the physical now. We're dealing with imagination. So you're going to draw the breath into your center. Before you do that, you have to find your center. So in martial arts, in many Eastern philosophies, they call it the chi center or the ki center. It is your energy center, and it is found just below the belly button. So you would either measure 2 inches or you would do 3 finger breaths below your belly button. That's your center. So you center by drawing breath into that space. Now again, I don't want you to confuse the physical with the imagination. Will there be a physical change? Yes. But your lungs don't go that low. So there's more of an ethereal shift. There's more of a shift of your awareness and your place in this universe. So if you can put your fingers right now, not on your diaphragm, but in a place where you can measure 3 finger breaths below the belly button, I want you to exhale just as you would before a diaphragmatic breath. And I don't want you to fill the chest at all. I just want you to try to draw the breath to where your fingers are. Don't get hung up on the physical. Now, I know that sounds confusing, so we're going to make it a little easier. I want you to color the breath with light. So with your eyes closed, now if you're driving, please don't do this right now. You could listen to the recording later. But with your eyes closed, you draw in the breath, you have your fingers placed at your center, and you imagine the breath being colored with light. So in your mind's eye, you are breathing into center. And I want you to identify this now light-filled breath as life force. Now, is life force real? Yes. Can you hold it? Yes. How do I know? Because you're alive. If you have a plant that is still green and you water it, it has life force. If you have a pet that eats and poops and pees, it has life force. Hamster, gerbil, fish, they have life force. And not only do they have life force, but every single cell in their body has life force, right, Kristen, Camilla? Every single cell in your body is a living organism. And like your pets, every single cell has to respire, has to respirate, has to breathe. And it has to eat, and it has to poop. Not in the same way your dog does, but living things move because they have life force. So when you draw in light-filled breath, you are drawing in life force. Is this imagination or is it real? I'm going to say it's real. You want to shut somebody down, stick them in a dark room and keep them there. Remove them from light. Lay them down and don't give them any activity so they don't have to breathe that hard. And their life force will diminish. So we are bringing life force into our bodies. But we are being very deliberate in the way we do it. We are bringing it in to center. So now let's think of a compass. We're very clear on the polarities of directions, right? We have north and south and east and west. So let's substitute. At the North Pole, let's call it anger. You have all had the experience of anger. You know what it feels like. You know what it does to you. Is it healthy? No. Might it serve you in a moment? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're in a boxing match, a moment of anger might serve you. But if you hold on to it the entire fight, you're probably going to lose. Might you say something that you always wanted to say when you're angry? Yes. And might there be a consequence? Maybe, but maybe it makes you feel good. So we can't say anger is good or bad, but we know adrenal stress chronically is bad. So we don't want to be in anger too long or too intensely. But if we went south on this compass, we would get to complacency. I'm not angry, so I'm nothing. I'm not motivated. Why are you sitting on the couch again? Because there's nothing else to do. Oh. Well, why don't you get yourself angry? Then you'll go work out or something. So we don't want to be angry, but we don't want to be complacent. We kind of want to be in the middle. Now, if we look at the East and the West, fear, as you guys know, because you understand how to EEM, fear will limit you and hold you back. But the absence of fear leads to arrogance, and that's when you do harm to yourself or to others. So ideally, we want to be right in the center. So from an emotional perspective, this makes sense, correct? You're also familiar with the tool that I gave you for manifesting: thoughts, action, outcomes. Well, this relies on centering. Because on one extreme, we have stream of consciousness thoughts. Some of them are really good. Some of them are idiotic. Am I right? I mean, it could be anything from you walk by a window of a bakery and you go, oh, I would love to eat some of those. You're just having a thought. But if you're on a 55-day program and you're in a phase where you're not eating cheesecake, then you don't want to go into the bakery. So you can still have the thought. You just can't be ruled by it. But then we have our gut thoughts. And the gut thoughts don't always speak in language. They sometimes speak in feelings. And you've all made the mistake where you didn't go with your gut. So you want to listen to your gut, but not fully. Somewhere you got to have thoughts that lead you somewhere. So you want to be in the center. We at times do things because emotionally it seems like the right thing to do. Think of a time you did something really stupid. Has anybody here ever done anything really stupid? Why did you do the thing that you did that you now know is stupid? Because in the moment, it felt right. You look back and you go, what was wrong with me? I mean, I could start rattling off a very long list of the stupid things I've done. But every one of them in that moment emotionally seemed like the right thing to do. So you can argue with me and go, well, Phil, you should not have done those things because it's not logical. You should have listened to the logical, rational voice in your head. And then I'd be really bored and I'd miss out on all the adventures in my life. So we want to be in center. Is this making sense? You guys understanding the concept? It's different than balance of being in center. So if we have thoughts and gut, logic and emotion, our thoughts determine our actions. So if we're going to take control of our thoughts, pull it into center, rely at some level on emotion, at some level on logic, at some level on our gut, and at some level on stream of consciousness, then we're going to break out our journal and we're going to write things down and we're going to plan our day for tomorrow and we're going to list our actions and then we're going to do the right actions. Who here is still using the Tao tool? I hope all of you. If you're not, you should. That simple tool is worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, honestly. When you use it, you appreciate the value of it. And if you forgot about it, go back and use it. Because when you use the tool, you bring yourself to center. And you plan your actions. And when you plan your actions, you can determine what the outcome will be. What should the outcome be? Your future memory. You want to create a future that you embed into your brain so your brain thinks it already happened. You're creating the outcome you want. And your thoughts, you can now steer from center into your actions that will lead you to that outcome. Now, just as anger and complacency are on opposite ends of the spectrum, so too are your future memory and discontent. So you don't want to be stuck in discontent, but you also don't want to just be stuck in your future memory. Because then it seems like a daydream. You want to move toward your future memory. And what will determine how effectively you get there? The balance between your EEM and the PFC. Is this making sense? So if we tilt the compass a little bit, and on one end, which was the south, now becomes southwest, and on the polar opposite end, the north has become the northeast, we now have creative tension. It is the distance, the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So if you feel stuck, well, that is your circle of discontent. I'm fat. I'm sick. I can't get off the medication. I have no energy. I have brain fog. I've tried everything. Nothing works. All of that is in your circle of discontent where you feel stuck. You're chained. But when you're willing to create a different future, when you're willing to entertain the possibility of a future memory, you now have creative tension. And once you have creative tension, you no longer want to be in your circle of discontent. Where do you want to be? In center. You want to be in the center between your discontent and your future memory. Now, this may sound like a paradox, because you might say, well, Phil, no, I want to be in my future memory. Well, you do, sure. That's a part of the force. The desire to be there is the force that is bringing you to center. But here's the beauty of this. When you get to your future memory, you have a greater one. When you get to the place that you say, now I'm in shape, you want to be in better shape. So by staying in center, as you progress, so too does the force. So being in center is exactly where you want to be. So I'm going to give you an exercise. And again, trust me when I say I know of what I speak. So when I say you're going to not appreciate the value of this exercise yet, that doesn't mean don't do it. It means I haven't steered you wrong. So trust that if you stay with this exercise, it will change your life. Now, we are at the last webinar of the 55 days. And we are going to keep everything up for another week. And some of you have come in midway through the 55 days. And some have come in just a week ago. Some of you have been here since day one. But I have to tell you, when I extend gratitude to the coaches, you know, it may sound trite. It may sound like, oh, he's just doing that thing again that he does, expressing gratitude. Oh, it is so deep and so sincere. Because I couldn't have anticipated how powerful this community would become. I couldn't. I just thought, let's do something good for people at a time where everybody's stressed out over health and money. Let's do something free where they can improve themselves. But now, as I look at this community, and I look at what it's brought you, and I look at what Troy brought, and I look at what Heather brought, and I look at what Tony brought, and I look at what Holly brought, and I look at what Brasilia brought, and I look at what Dr. Bleiweiss brought. How do you put a value on this? Honestly, I mean, I've never seen anything with this level of value. Have you guys? And everybody's stepping into their role. You know, Jim talking about being outside, and then Kristen talking about getting the same benefit biohacking inside. I mean, we've covered all the bases. I often give the creative tension gap between Holly and Holden. You know, it's the same human movement, but Holly's speaking to people who are not quite thoroughbreds, and Holden's talking to people who say, kick my butt, man. I want to challenge myself. So the value is immense for everybody, and I just want you to understand what you've got. When I said that I took this program and created it from the skeleton that underlies my most effective programs. That skeleton is 42 principles. When you understand those 42 principles, you have complete control over your body. When you internalize the message of as a man thinketh, you have complete control over your mindset. Everybody loves Tammy. And most people love Billy too. All right, everybody loves Billy too. Because she's bringing the metabolic meals to life. But here's something you need to realize. You have them. I gave them to you. You have the entire book. Tammy, for the most part, she's thrown in some of her own great recipes, but she's followed the recipes in the book that you now have. You have a program that is capable of changing people's lives because you guys have experienced it, so you know this to be true. You have one-page summaries of exercise routines that you can follow for the rest of your life. You've learned to identify the energy centers that we know as the chakras, and not only identify them, but use them for your own betterment. That's all yours for free. You have the 6-point secret that underlies human betterment. It is what we use to help people reverse chronic disease. The 6 points: brain, immune system, gut, mind, spirit, cell. That's the magic. You understand biomovements. If you were somebody who went to a gym and you did machines all the time and you were getting pain in your shoulders and your ankles, and now you understand how to move your body through space. And you understand all the different variations you could do of a squat and a push and a pull. You're so far ahead of the curve. You're so far ahead of most personal trainers in terms of real-world value of an exercise routine. You understand circadian nutrition, so never again in your life will you fall for a diet or hit a plateau. You understand that you are in control of your mindset, and if you journal with the Tao tool, your outcomes. And you understand what supplements can bring you value and what you don't need to waste money on. You recognize that you have been shut down by monsters: procrastination, distraction, worry, negative talk. And you didn't even know they were there before, but now you've woken up to it. You're like, oh, here he is again, procrastination. I'm not going to let you do it to me this time because I'm calling upon the hero. So you understand the monsters. You have a connection with the heroes, and you have the superheroes. So it's good you're here. It's really good you're here. And now, as if that's not enough, we're going to give away some prizes. Now, I'm only going to give away a few tonight, but there are a lot that we're going to give away. So we will be contacting you by email, or we'll be posting it in the group over the next few days as we get toward Friday, which will be the official last day of this community as it exists now. So this is just the beginning. So if you didn't win something tonight, I can't promise you're going to win something, but don't give up. And even if you didn't win anything, look at all the stuff you got. You got heroes, you got superheroes, you got the PowerPoints, you got principles, as a man thinketh. You're kind of getting it now, right? There's a lot here. You lucked out when you joined this group. But I do want to give away a few things. So Holly has been an incredible treasure, not just for this group, for the people who know her and love her. She has a wonderful television show. One of the things I admire about Holly is she loves learning. And she was a very qualified, competent fitness professional quite some time ago, but she never stopped getting better. And she gets credentials and she attends conferences, and she's just committed to making people better. And she's found her place with her active agers. Now, that doesn't mean she doesn't help other people as well, but that's kind of her attachment right now. And there's an immense need for Holly because so many people think exercise is not for them. They think exercise means joining a CrossFit gym. And she has an incredible ability to help people realize their capability and improve. So, as you would expect, Holly is an author, and she wrote a book called Fitting Fitness In. So she is going to send a signed copy to a person. And she's also going to consult with that person and make sure they get a personalized routine. Now I'm going to tell you how I did this. I got a lot of entries. I printed them out on spreadsheets, and I cut out all the pieces. And then I put all the pieces in a box, and I was going to mix them up, but they were too small and they were all crinkly, and that didn't work. So I went back and printed spreadsheets again. And I just spread them out all over the table, and randomly I'd take a pen and I'd go bam, and I'd land on one. I go, okay, that's the winner of the Holly Prize. And I go bam, and then I did another one. So just so you know, that's how they were selected, and that's how Mary Shapiro got to win Holly's book. Yay! So here's how it's going to work. Holly will contact you by email, by text, or by phone, and she'll connect with you, get your address. She will send you the book, and you will set up an appointment to consult with her. So, Mary, I don't know if you're here tonight, but yay! There we go. Ariel. She makes people lighter. There's so much meaning to that. And you guys who have connected with her understand the meaning. So what if I told you that Ariel was going to give you a Becoming Lighter package, which is 3 sessions with her? Now, if you live in South Florida, that's awesome, because that's where she lives. But if you don't, and you won, then you're going to do it by Zoom or by Skype. Irina, you said, great, thank you, I will let my mom know. Is Mary your mom? Oh, okay. Well, great. So, Irina, congratulations to your mom. Yay, Mary. Now, who is going to win 3 sessions with Ariel, including a guided meditation that you will record and you will then have forever and ever and ever? Tia Sabo. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but there's your winner. Isn't this fun? Well, it's fun for Mary and it's fun for Tia. So remember, not everybody's going to win a prize, but you all got all that free stuff. And you get to hang out with all these great people. Tammy, you love her. You've been in her kitchen. You've smelled her food through your computer, which is amazing. And now she is going to take one person through a customized cooking experience. So the first session, she will consult with you. You'll tell her what you like to eat, what you like to cook, and together you will determine what the best option is. You can go through the Metabolic Meals book. You can pick one. And then you will have a shopping list, and you'll go to the store, and you'll buy the stuff. And then you come back for the second session, and in real time, you will cook that meal together with Tammy. How awesome is that? Who wins? Gina Heffernan is the lucky winner. Want more? All right, the Thrive product. I'm wearing my Thrive patch. I know so many of you guys are wearing your Thrive patches. Not because you just love showing it off, because you've come to appreciate the value of this incredible supplement package. And when we talk about all of the things that people should be taking, prebiotics and probiotics and enzymes and anti-inflammatories and antioxidants, it's all in here. So you wake up in the morning, you take your 2 capsules, and then you have your shake, and then you put on your patch, and you're done for the day. And we now also have the new product, which couldn't be more timely, called Recharge. And Recharge is the immunity patch transdermally sends through your skin into your bloodstream vitamin C, zinc, and elderberry, and some other really cool stuff, all connected with this concept of boosting your immune system. So all of you should get this. But somebody's going to get it free. Now, there is an extreme value to it, honestly. And the entire Thrive 30-day kit, and there's a lot in there, is $150 a month. And the immunity packs are $40 a month. The immunity patches are $40 a month. And what I want to tell you is, prior to me finding this product, I recommended that people go to their local Whole Foods or nutrition store, supplement store, and that they buy, and I didn't give them brands, but a prebiotic, a probiotic, all the things I mentioned, and they would spend about $250, $260 a month. So when we found Thrive, it replaces all of that. So what I've done is I've created a 7-day pack that if you want to buy it, I will ship it to you, and you can try it without investing the full $150, and you can just kind of see what you think. So if you do want to buy the Thrive 7-day pack, you can send me an email or you can ask me through the group. But right now, I'm going to give a 7-day Thrive pack to Michael Rafison in New York. Yay, Michael! So I will reach out to you. I will get your address, and it will show up in the mail. And the 30-day Thrive Pack is going to Melanie Alston. So this is fun. I feel a little bit like Oprah when she gave away cars. I mean, maybe they're not cars. They're more valuable than cars. Are you kidding me? What would you rather have, a car or Cooking with Tammy? Yeah, maybe the car. But Cooking with Tammy is really great. I guess it depends on what kind of car it is and what you cook. All right, so I will continue the giveaways throughout the week. I will tell you what is yet to come. You've seen Kristen Camella. Dr. Camella has shown you her biohacks. And along the way, she's shown you some really cool things like the lava beads and the radiation blocker for your phone. And the sleep mask. We're getting like mask crazy. The sleep mask, I'm just going to tell you, like if you've ever heard of, what do they call, like a deprivation experience where you just cut out, all light and all sound. This simple little lightweight mask really brings you into darkness, and you are not affected by just the ambient light around you, and you get a really, really good night's sleep. And we all know how important that is. Greg makes a very good point. Greg says it is so much better to get Cooking with Tammy or Becoming Lighter with Ariel or Fitting Fitness In with Holly. It is so much better because you have to pay taxes on the car. So, Greg, thank you for straightening me out with that. Absolutely correct. I would much rather have Cooking with Tammy than have to pay taxes on a car. Thank you. So, I can't tell you who won this yet, but somebody will. And to be announced, free one-on-one sessions with Holden Pierre. If you live in Fort Lauderdale, you will get that in person. Now, don't be afraid. If you're not a committed thoroughbred, if you're going, well, maybe I'm a thoroughbred, but maybe I'm a phoenix, and I don't want Holden to kill me. He hasn't killed anyone yet, and he certainly knows how to modify it, and not all of his clients are thoroughbreds. He just enjoys working with the thoroughbreds. So if you are an athlete, great, and if you're not, he's still going to do a great job with you. So if you live in South Florida, you can come see Holden, and if you don't, then you'll do it by Skype or Zoom. If you live in South Florida, the next one we cannot do by Skype or Zoom, so you're going to have to live in South Florida or come visit to get your free cryotherapy session or some of the premium options at Biohackers, but all of these things are going to be given away as prizes. You will also get to do a remote session with Troy. And if you live in or near Battle Creek, you can go do some live sessions with Troy. Tasso fans, somebody's winning Tasso. Not to take home, but he's going to give away training sessions, workout sessions, and some memberships at his club in Daytona. And there's plenty more. So that's just the beginning. So Mary and Mike and Gina and everybody, Taya and everybody who won something tonight, congratulations, and there is more to come. And as I think Michelle pointed out earlier, everybody's a winner, right? All right, as far as the nutrition part, you've got this down. You understand it. So should you stay with the intermittent eating? If you want to do it one more week, you can. But I'm going to ask you, for your benefit, not to stay with it even if you love it, because with anything you will adapt. So the idea of circadian nutrition is when you finish your third phase, then you're going to go right back to metabolic eating. So this should sound familiar, and it should sound really simple now. Can you still have the golden milk? I know that's a question everybody asks. Yes. Once you start with golden milk, you can keep going. But just back to metabolic eating, 3 to 4 metabolic meals, protein, protein-sparing nutrient, fibers, carb. And this should be simple at this point. This should be lifestyle for you. From there, you go to fat burning, glycogen depletion. And from there, you go back to intermittent eating, and this becomes now the way that you eat forever and ever and ever, or as long as you want to continue to improve. So in the days to come, you can exercise. If you love the routine you're doing now, you can do it for another week, or you can go ahead to week 1. Now, why would you say go ahead to week 1? Why wouldn't you say go back to week 1? Well, because you're in a different body now. So you're going to challenge yourself more. And that's the beauty of a routine like this, is you never outgrow it. Your all-out bursts require more of an output because you're in better cardiorespiratory shape. Instead of using an 8-pound medicine ball, this time you'll use a 10-pound medicine ball. Does that mean you have to buy a new medicine ball? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. So if you go forward to week 1, just follow it exactly as it's laid out. If you want to stay with what you did last week for one more week, good. Either way is okay. You can stay with the intermittent eating for one more week, or you could go right back to phase 1 of circadian nutrition. All of the supplements that you started taking in this phase, you can continue because there's certainly value that doesn't go away in the prebiotics, the probiotics, the enzymes, the vitamin D3, vitamin C, essential fatty acids, and everything else we spoke about. How long should you use the tool, the manifesting tool of Tao, forever and ever and ever, as long as you want to improve? And where should you stay? In center. Does there come a time that you only need to sleep 3 hours? No. So those recommendations, the eating with the circadian plan, sleeping 7-8 hours a night, and drinking plenty of water, those are eternal. So too are the commands, laugh, love, and listen. And that about wraps it up. You want to be in a state where you are able to heal. You want to be in a state of homeostasis. All the time? No. When you exercise, you're out of homeostasis. When you're stressed, you're out of homeostasis. But when you get into this great state of health where your body can heal, then your parasympathetic recovery system brings you back to homeostasis, a place where you find balance between stress, load, and recovery, a place where your body gets better and better and better. Now, I didn't forget. I told you I was going to teach you a centering exercise, and I promised you this would become really valuable. So it is a little abstract. It is a little esoteric. It's not physical exercise in the way we've come to know it, but I'm making you a promise, and remember what I said earlier, I haven't let you down yet. This may become one of the most valuable things you learn. When would you want to employ this exercise to get in center? When you feel pressured by a decision that you have to make it from center. Don't make it based on too much emotion or too much logic. Make it from center. When you feel that stress is impacting you, you can't always make the stress go away if there is an actual stressor, but you can find your center. So many athletes, great athletes, have learned to center before they're asked to perform. I wrote a book years ago called The Mental Conditioning Bible. And I have a copy of it, and it's in Japanese. I didn't write it in Japanese. I wrote it in English. It was translated to Japanese. It was published by Weeder Japan. So I was contracted to write it. But I got to talk to some amazing coaches and sports psychologists. And when you begin centered, you perform better. Sometimes, nope, always. And when you are dealing with the brain that won't shut up, get in the center. When you're facing an impulse to do something that you know is stupid, get into center. So I mentioned Aikido. And I told you the whole idea is we're going to take the force of an opponent and not necessarily use it against them, but use it in our favor to disarm them. So I means join, and ki, or chi, depending if we're Japanese or Chinese, is going to relate to energy. So in Aikido, we blend the external force and the internal force. And when that force is coming toward us in a threatening way, we get to lead it so it doesn't harm us. And we acquire the energy of our own intensifying chi or ki with the force energy that's coming at us. So we become incredibly powerful. So here's how we do this. Here's how we become centered. First, you find that spot. You identify the point 2 inches or 3 finger breadths below the navel, and it's not on the surface of the skin. It is midway into the body. Identify that point now. And even if you're sitting, it's still in the same place. Now, I told you earlier, you're going to breathe into that spot. Don't get hung up on the physical. When you're breathing into your diaphragm space, that was physical. This goes beyond the physical. So you're going to create an awareness that has you literally drawing breath into that spot. But you're going to do it in a position of balance. So you're going to stand. You're not wearing heels. You don't have a child on your shoulders. But you're going to stand with your arms out in front of you as if you're hugging a tree or as if you're holding your arms around a big stability ball. And you're going to center yourself, finding your center between left and right. And then you're going to bring an awareness to your feet and find balance between the balls of your feet and your heels. So you are balanced in all directions. And you're drawing in the breath. Now, unlike the diaphragmatic breath exercise I taught you, where you fill the lower and then you fill the upper, the chest, we're bypassing the chest. This is not necessarily a physical exercise. This is coming into center. Mind, body, spirit, all of it. So as you stand in that position, hugging the tree, fully balanced, you draw breath into that point, bypassing the natural or what has become natural for you, inclination to expand the chest. At first, it will feel weird, and you're going to wonder if you're doing it, but within a few sessions, you're going to know how to do this. You're just going to develop that innate recognition of, yes, I'm drawing light and breath into that chi center. Now, every time you exhale, envision that chi center, which begins like a little golf ball, contracting down to just a speck. So it's like you're filling it with life force, and then it is pushing it out into the cells of your body. You're inhaling light and breath into your chi point, size of a golf ball, And then as you exhale, it is squeezing that life force out into the cells of your body. That's the exercise. It seems absurdly simple. You're asking, how could that be so powerful? And I'm going to ask you to just do it. I've got a pretty good track record of steering people toward betterment. I won't stop here. Ariel just said in the chat window, you guys, I did this exercise today and it was powerful. Ariel, tell him how powerful. Because I demonstrated it for her, because I believe that if she does another session going forward, she likes to integrate the things we talk about. Yeah, really. She's asking me, really? Yeah. Now, I will tell you that when I did it with her, because she's very experienced in this type of thing, I gave her some prompts that I wouldn't give to a beginner. So we're dealing with somebody who's very experienced, so it's kind of like you take an experienced exerciser and you're going to challenge them more. So she's very able to visualize and draw things in. She said, the energy was such an intense wave, I had to lie down. So when I tell you this is powerful, when you actually experience being truly centered, you're drawing in energies from external forces. Spiritual forces, mind forces, life forces, gravity, circulating air, all of the energies around you. You're drawing them into your chi center so you can control them. Now, I told you this was abstract. And this is why I compared it to Aikido. It's not actually an art, but it's like you're drawing in the forces so you can use them. You're taking chaos of energy and you're directing it. And it is incredibly powerful. So once you get the hang of this, then you now have a sense of that energy point, and it is filled with energy. So when you take a step forward or back or to the side, in your mind, you lead with your chi spot. Different than a G spot. You lead with that center point. And think of it this way. You're moving the energy first so your body is drawn to it. And movement becomes so natural and effortless. So once you start to develop the simplicity of the practice and you start to develop the connection with the energy, then you bring it to your movements. You lunge, but you lunge from center. Billy, it is exactly like Neo in the Matrix. Yep, when he realizes he's the one. When you develop a connection with the control that you have over this energy, it changes everything. So try bringing it to a lunge. You're going to see it's totally different than anything you've done because that relied only on the physical. You're bringing in assisting forces to move your body through space. And you will not get it until you get it. Ariel said I would have passed out from the intensity of my own chi. And she also replied to Billy and she said exactly like Neo in the Matrix. So all of the movements where you move your body through space, the only change is you're going to get centered first and then you're moving from the energy spot. Is this only for exercise? No, this is for life. This is for everything. When we talk about being centered, last week I spoke about balance. This takes it to a totally different level. If your blood pressure is high, do the centering exercise and check it again. I can't promise you won't need your blood pressure medication anymore, but I'm going to tell you this, there's a pretty good chance if you do this regularly, there is research linking Qigong with reduction in blood pressure. This is why. If you have stressors, if, like me, you have a 16-year-old daughter, you're going to have to master this to keep your sanity. So if you imagine a stone in the river, the forces of the river do not move the stone parts the forces. When we have these storms in South Florida and you see those palm trees and they look like they're going to be uprooted, man, they manage that energy. And the next day they look exactly the same, except when there's a hurricane. There are extremes. Early on, we spoke about labels. And I told you not to take on the labels that other people give you, whether they tell you that you're lazy, unmotivated, fat, or your doctor told you that you're diabetic. I don't say ignore it. I'm just saying don't believe it to be eternal. It is changeable, and everything that you have learned from the coaches and from me has given you a greater power. So always be aware of your own power to determine your own identity. And never take lightly the words I am, because whatever you tack on after it is what you become. On Friday, we have our last coaches roundtable, so I want you to be there. I say this to the coaches, but I say it to everybody. It's fun. It's important. It's us connecting, but it's also, I think this time, just a true wrap-up of everything that we've done. And may be a little emotional. Certainly we'll get a few laughs out of it. But I just think it's an appropriate, like we finished summer camp and we're just kind of having that last little party of the summer. And then we will go on to something even greater. Any thoughts, comments, questions from anybody about anything before we wrap it up? I will tell you one more time that I cannot measure or put in words the gratitude I have for everybody who became a part of this. So I don't have to go on and on and on because I can't put it in words, but I think at this point you guys are getting it. Paul, I appreciate the thank you. You're very welcome. To the coaches, if you guys want to do a little impromptu show this week, you're welcome to. I think Tasso said he's going to be around with you guys in the mornings. This is the wrap-up of the final webinar of this 55-day series. But we will continue to speak, and until we speak again, be better, everybody. Bye-bye.